final, lingering rays of the setting sun fought their way through the tall window, casting long, dancing shadows across the worn floorboards. In this room, a legacy from his grandmother, time itself seemed to move differently. It congealed, flowed like thick honey, leaving its indelible mark not just in the hairline fractures on the ceiling, but deep within their young hearts, which were only just beginning to map the complex, often unforgiving terrain of adulthood. "Amelia," he whispered, his voice soft yet clear in the quiet room. "What if we got married?" Jacob's fingers found hers, lacing together with a gentle certainty that made her breath catch. He was looking at her with such an unguarded, boundless tenderness that for a moment Amelia felt the air leave her lungs. She turned away, toward the window, watching the ant-like figures of people scurrying far below, their lives and worries a world away from the sudden, overwhelming wave of happiness that had just washed over them. "But, Jacob, where would we live?" Her voice was small, tinged with a practical, worried note he recognized from his own mother. "Your grandmother is moving to her summer house, I know, and this apartment will be ours for a while. But that house has no heating. She can't stay there through the winter. And what if we have children? 2 rooms will feel like a closet for all of us. I grew up in a place just like this, sharing a room with my sister until I left for college. You did the same with your brother." She spoke these words while staring at some distant point on the horizon, as if already running through the countless potential scripts of their future together, searching for their weak spots and their hidden strengths. "We could rent a room somewhere, Amelia," he insisted, still floating in that blissful cloud of romantic idealism where love alone could conquer any mundane obstacle. "Jacob, my love, our parents are already helping us as much as they can. They're paying for our tuition. That's a huge weight off our shoulders. To ask them for more, I just can't." Her sense of pride was a tangible thing in the room. "But my dad is taking out a loan. He's going to install all the modern comforts out there for her. All her friends are in that neighborhood, her old circle. She'll be happy. So you see, Amelia, you can't back out now. It's fate." He flashed her that boyish, roguish grin that never failed to make her heart feel warm and full. She let out a long, slow breath, gathering her thoughts, summoning an inner resolve he had always suspected was there, but had rarely seen so clearly. "All right, Jacob, I will marry you, but on one condition. After we finish our first-year exams, I'm switching to a part-time program, and I'm getting a job. You need to keep studying full-time, you know that. Otherwise, you'll be eligible for the draft. We can make this work." "Amelia, I'm not sure I follow." His eyebrows shot up in genuine confusion. He had expected tears of joy, a tight embrace, not this sober, strategic counterproposal. "It's very simple, my dear," she said, turning to face him fully, her eyes blazing with a newfound determination. "When 2 people decide to join their lives, it means they are ready to stand on their own. I'm not just talking about your grandmother's apartment. That will be yours one day regardless. I'm talking about being able to support ourselves, to build our own family, to truly be adults. I just thought our parents would help us until we got our degrees," he murmured. And a thread of uncertainty, thin and sharp, wove itself into his voice for the first time. This was not the reaction he had anticipated from his usually soft-spoken, dreamy Amelia. "It's decided, Jacob. I've already seen an opening for a courier at a reputable law firm in the city. It's a start. If I prove myself, there's a real chance for a promotion after I graduate. We can do this." That summer, after a modest yet profoundly heartfelt wedding surrounded only by their closest family and friends, Jacob and Amelia moved into his grandmother's apartment. It was then, standing hand in hand with a newfound solidarity, that they announced to both sets of parents they would be managing on their own from now on without further financial aid. They could see the potent mixture of anxiety and fierce pride shimmering in their mother's eyes. "We're always just a phone call away. You remember that," Amelia's father said, pulling both his daughter and new son-in-law into a gruff, emotional embrace. "If the road gets too rough, our door is always open." For a while, everything was perfect, better than they could have hoped. The money from the wedding envelopes was enough to furnish their nest and keep them fed. Then, Amelia received her first real paycheck, and they celebrated with a small private feast, a store-bought cake, some sparkling cider, and laughter that echoed through the apartment as they reminisced about the most hilarious moments from their wedding day. But autumn arrived, and with it, the tuition bills. Their carefully hoarded financial cushion began to deflate at an alarming rate. Maybe we should just call our parents, Amelia," Jacob ventured timidly one evening, watching her count and recount a small stack of bills at the kitchen table, her brow furrowed in concentration. "No, Jacob, I'm not waving a white flag." Her voice was steel wrapped in velvet. "The assistant to my manager, a woman named Chloe, she's renting a room right now, but her commute is a nightmare. I offered her our spare room. It's large, gets great light, has 2 windows. The bathroom your dad renovated is gorgeous, so we have to thank him again. The furniture is vintage, solid, it has character." Chloe agreed, but only if she can bring her 2 roommates. They all came to the city from the same small town and don't want to split up. They're willing to pay us $1,800 a month. It's a steal for them, they can walk to work, and it's a lifesaver for us. Her friends are servers at the diner near my office, and they'll sometimes bring home leftover food. How perfect is that, Jacob? "Amelia, you're a tactical genius," Jacob laughed, a wave of relief washing over him as he looked at his wife with sheer admiration. "You trust me completely. You're my chief advisor and my rock." You know, navigating life's tricky financial corners is a story in itself. If you're finding our story relatable, make sure to hit that subscribe button for more deep dives into the real-life dramas of love and money. The new tenants settled in quickly and easily. The women were cheerful and grateful, and their shared dinners often turned into lively, impromptu parties. Amelia found herself only needing to supplement a few groceries. It seemed their life had been injected with new colors, a constant, comforting hum of activity and laughter, reinforcing the feeling that they were, against all odds, on the right path. This particular day, bright and serene, was etched into Amelia's memory with perfect, painful clarity. The doctor had confirmed her suspicions. She was going to be a mother. Overflowing with joy so intense it felt like wings, the positive test tucked safely in her purse, she decided not to wait for evening and headed home early to deliver the earth-shattering news to Jacob in person. He was due back from the university soon. Stepping into the apartment, she heard the familiar sound of the shower running. "He's home," she thought, a smile instantly lighting up her face. She moved toward the bedroom to drop off her bag, but stopped dead on the threshold. There, in their marital bed, on the crisply ironed sheets she had smoothed with such affection that very morning, lay one of the tenants, Bianca. She was completely naked. "Amelia, you're home early," she said, lazily propping herself up on an elbow, not a flicker of shame on her face. "I thought it was Jacob coming out of the shower. Well, since you're here, I guess you should know. You should probably make yourself scarce. What he and I have is real," she declared. And with a deliberate, theatrical gesture, she kicked the duvet off onto the floor. And there, standing in the doorway, his hair still dripping and his eyes wide with utter shock, was Jacob. "Bianca, what in God's name are you doing in our bed?" His voice was a sharp, loud crack in the stillness. "You told me it was your day off and you were sleeping in. I just got home. I heard you snoring in your room 2 minutes ago." Bianca's carefully constructed plan, built on cunning and cold calculation, imploded in an instant. She had banked on Amelia, blinded by jealous rage and heartbreak, not stopping to ask questions. She'd even pre-packed a suitcase and left it by the front door, hoping Amelia would grab it and flee, slamming the door on her marriage forever. Jacob usually took long showers, but today everything had gone wrong. Bianca had meant to slip back into her own room, leaving only the wreckage of trust behind. After a scene like that, she was certain the young couple would split and the lonely, vulnerable Jacob would be easy prey.
What would you have done if you were in Amelia's shoes? Could you have trusted Jacob's explanation? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I'm genuinely curious to hear different perspectives on this. Jacob evicted Bianca on the spot. Amelia sat at the kitchen table, pale, her hands trembling, the world tilting on its axis. She didn't know what to believe. But as she turned the event over in her mind, the resolute, independent woman she had fought so hard to become rebelled against the idea of simply running back to her parents, especially now, in her condition. She looked into Jacob's honest, desperate eyes, heard his frantic, stumbling but utterly sincere explanation, and chose to believe him. Together they unpacked that never-opened suitcase, him hanging the dresses back in the closet and placing the shoes neatly on the rack. A quiet, ritualistic act of mending the shattered pieces of their shared life. That evening, when Chloe and the other roommate returned, they already knew what had happened. "Wait, didn't Bianca tell you?" Chloe asked, puzzled as she unpacked grocery bags. "All she talked about yesterday was meeting some guy who came into the diner and how she was planning to move in with him. This is all so weird." And just like that, a fragile peace settled back over their home. Amelia gave birth to 2 beautiful, healthy daughters in the apartment filled with a new kind of music. The gurgling laughter of babies, the pitter-patter of tiny feet, and the radiant light of a joy they had never known before. During one of their now crowded family meetings, Jacob's grandmother, who had by then returned from her summer house, made a pronouncement. "I'm moving in with you 2, she stated, her tone brooking no argument. "You can't manage 2 little whirlwinds on your own, not while Jacob is still finishing his degree. My place is here now." And so, while their formal declaration of independence had technically come to an end, both Amelia and Jacob understood this was not a defeat, but merely the start of a new, different volume in their lives. They stood together in their living room, the very same room where he had once promised her his heart, and watched as his grandmother gently rocked the twin stroller, humming an old, half-remembered lullaby. Outside, snow began to fall, a soft, silent shroud blanketing the sleeping city. Theirs was never a fairy tale with a pristine, predictable plot. It had cracks in the ceiling and profound tests of faith. But they had built their home not from walls and furniture, but from something far more durable. Mutual support, the hard work of forgiveness, and the quiet, daily choice to nurture their shared happiness. And that kind of home, they discovered, is stronger than any castle.